One of the great runners in all of the NBA is Scotty Barnes of the Toronto Raptors at 2.67 miles traveled per game, tied for 7th highest in the NBA. Movement around the NBA is getting more and more important as teams try to maximize everything they can, and Barnes' teammate Gradey Dick is looking to join him in that elite class of movers. This year, if preseason is any indication, Gradey will be in constant motion. And it's not just the short spurts anymore, a flash cut here, a pin down there. It seems that the Raptors have built Gradey into the offense in new ways that require constant motion. Even if he sprints to the corner, he'll be sprinting out of it and up court for a Chicago or Miami action, a weak side exchange, or into a darling play taken from UConn Stan Hurley, horn, skip, slip, Chicago. And before we get into all the numbers and the film about how much better Gradey has been in this preseason and what that means for the regular season and his career, make sure to like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps push the work. It helps more people see it. Thank you. Back to the video. All that running, well, it requires a lot of cardiovascular constitution, let's say. And oddly enough, the first conversation I ever had with Gradey was about just that. Gradey told me, quote, "The court, it's kind of underrated. People don't understand how coming from a high school and college court, then coming here, there's a lot more space. But I like having that for my game and what it opens up. In college, you beat a defender, you get past, it's everyone coming in and playing team defense. So just being able to do that and the conditioning to do that is important and something I'm still working on." End quote. We are 15 months and a couple exercise or weight programs removed from that conversation, and while there's no exact metric to say that Gradey is handling the running and physicality better, he is. Quote, "Talking to Coach Darko and Evo, the biggest emphasis was the defensive side, and that kind of helping me propel into my offensive side. Every time out, they're telling me how many deflections I'm getting, and after a couple of those, I think that's really improving my energy going into the offensive side. When I do that, I can kind of show more versatility to my game." Gradey's jumpers in preseason were defined almost completely by motion as far as jumpers go. He shot 7 of 10 on movement mid-range shots. He shot 3 for 11 on movement threes and 9 of 24 on standstill threes. Not to mention, he shifted a huge heap of his shots above the break. 85% of his threes were taken from there, and he shot 39% on those. This comes after he had a tremendous second half of the season shooting the ball and in motion. Coach Darko said of his sophomore, quote, "He intrigued me from the start, thinking what kind of player he can be in the future and how to maximize his potential." And Coach Darko was echoing what Bobby Webster said on draft night so long ago, quote, "I think we had Gradey in kind of his own group. There was, I'm sure we'll all see how it all plays out over the next couple of years. I think the size, shooting, IQ probably stood out a bit. He's not just a shooter. He knows how to play off the ball. He knows how to make, backdoor cuts. He can pass well. He rebounds well. So I think he's more of a well-rounded player, even though he's probably going to get pegged early as just a shooter." End quote. And just as an aside, above the break shooting is significantly more important than the corners. It allows drives to either side of the court against aggressive closeouts. It drags defenders away from the baseline and the rim. It creates way more playmaking opportunities. And for team building purposes, it allows weaker shooters to occupy the corners where they might actually be able to hit a shot. It's a huge deal that Gradey is shaking his shot chart up and hitting well from there. Also, 6 of his 11 made triples from above the break came a full step or further from behind the line. Stretching the floor indeed. Scotty Barnes said Gradey stretches out the floor. He brings a lot of attention, and people are going to have to respect him shooting the ball. That's what he does. Being able to get downhill or spread it out for threes or running actions for him, it's just going to help our team out so much with the shooting and spacing the floor. Of course, shooting and spacing the floor isn't the only way that Gradey is able to help the Raptors. Those long, aggressive closeouts we talked about, he's driving them. When players try and wall off the screens he's taking up court, he's back cutting them. He's planting screens as often as possible and has been the linchpin back screener in Spain actions. His touch at the rim has always been elite, even if the strength deficiencies relative to other NBA players make it hard for him to hold his ground there. And we're seeing a vast array of finishes that include finger rolls with both hands over outstretched defenders, high kisses off the glass, and the reverse package has been on display for ages now. When I asked Gradey about cutting, he told me this: "It's definitely a talent to know when to cut and when not to. But it's really just watching your point guards and guys with the ball in their hands. It's playing off of them, seeing where they're at on the court. If you can cut, try to open up the floor for them. Most of the time, you're not really cutting for your shot. You're cutting to open up someone else's. Hopefully that opens up space for you. At the end of the day, the more movement, the better. If you're kind of hesitating whether you're going to cut or not, most of the time you're a second too late. It's more about getting out there, moving around the court, and trying to make shots for everyone else. I asked Gradey if teammates appreciate players who make the burn cut, who drag defenders to give other players opportunities. He said, of course, extra movement gets people excited. You want to move on the court. You want to make defenses have to change stuff up. What the Raptors try and do with Gradey will rely solely on his ability to sprint and slam into people while still maintaining the stamina to get up shots and make reads. Because with how Gradey reads the floor, how he tugs and pulls at the defense, you may as well just throw him into every action you can. And the Raptors basically have been in this preseason. It looked good when he was creating space for Ochai Agbaji and Davion Mitchell. Imagine how good it'll look when RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly are back in the swing of things. Coach Darko said he's already working on some stuff that I'm not allowing him to use in games yet. He needs to go through those repetitions in workouts. He needs to go through those in practice, in play groups, in all those situations versus coaches versus players before I say, okay, now let's see what it looks like in a real NBA game. So while a preseason where Gradey shot 43% from the floor and 34% from three might not seem like something to brag about, it's the process of things, the in-between that sells it. It's represented easily by the fact that he's making twice as many shots and scoring more than twice as many points as last preseason. It's more evident by the way you can't miss him when he's on the floor because he's involved in everything. We're going to see the stamina this year with a healthy mix of movement shooting, finger rolls, and standstill brash 26-foot pull-ups. It should be a blast. Thank you so much for tuning into this. I always enjoy doing the deep dives. If you want more stuff like this and you want us to make more, a higher volume like Gradey, make sure to like the video, subscribe, comment. Tell me if you learned something, or even more importantly, more interesting, let me know if I got something wrong. And if you want just more work in general, go to raptorsrepublic.com. That's the hub of everything. Yeah, so thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Samson Folk. I'll see you.